Alright, this is going to be a disassembly for the Airsoft Scar. Now, there are videos out there on how to do it, but depending on what model you get, it can be a little bit different. So, I'm just going to go through it, how you take apart the Scar. And this is an AGM Scar, for those that are wondering. But, basically, the way you start is you take off these Allen keys on the stock back here. So you're going to need an Allen key set or the specific Allen key just for that. But I just get the Allen key sets. Try to use metric Allen keys because the US ones are just slightly small and it could eventually strip your screws. Also, when you're tightening these back up, don't over tighten them. You can very easily strip the metal like I did on the top screw. So yeah, that's not something you want to do. But yeah, just take all three of these out. There's one on the top, if you don't know that already. Like so. And now you are free to take off the stock. Now when you're taking it off, be careful of the wiring in the rear. Just let it through like that. Take the spring out, and you're getting there. Okay. Now you have a couple body pins. You want to remove this one right here, the one on towards the front. Just pop it out and slide it apart. Now you can take the barrel out and do whatever to the barrel, replace it, put a new bucking in, whatever you want. Yeah. Now the bolt is just sitting in there right now. There is a bolt cover, a dust cover here, but I've taken mine out because after a lot of use, for some reason it got really stiff. The bolt would stick when I pulled it back. So I just took the cover out. Now to the gearbox, removing the gearbox from the gun itself. Hold on, let me adjust my tripod. This is not our tripod. It's not a very good tripod, but it's better than freehanding it. So, this is where people experience problems, is getting the gearbox out of the receiver itself. And I understand why. I've had a really hard time getting it out. But let's start with this. You have to unscrew these two motor screws towards the rear. You don't have to take out the flathead, that's for motor height adjustment. So let me do that real quick. Just take these two Phillips screws out, like so. Now yeah, my wiring's all messed up, so it's okay. Then just take this underneath the wires and pry them up. Be careful not to break these off, or you'll have to do some sort of makeshift job like that. Now you just pull the motor right out, and then inside there are two Phillips screws, one towards this corner and one towards that corner. So just take those out. I'm just going to take them out because I need to get the lighting right. So you get the point. Just give me a second. And I recommend a relatively long Phillips screwdriver for this. The one I'm using is a very useful one. It fits pretty much any Phillips screw there is, but it's kind of short. So okay, there we go. Now you just pull this off and carefully let the motor connectors through the holes in the bottom here. Alright, and that is off. Now, the fun part. Flip it over towards this side. Pop this pin out. Okay, the small pin right in the middle. You do not need to pop this pin off because it's a fake pin. It will come out, but it doesn't actually hold anything in. This pin towards the rear you'll also need to remove now if you haven't already. Just like so, the larger pin. And now here's where a lot of people experience problems, me included. Right here, there's a pin going right through there. As you can see, the grooves here kind of show you where it is. So just take a small screwdriver and just pop it right out, and then this will come off. Okay, so you got that little pin going straight through here. Alright, and that should get you pretty much set to complete the disassembly. Now you just take the spring out and this will fall out pretty much on its own. So yeah, now is also a relatively confusing part. The selector switches. You can't just pull the gearbox out like you can on an M4 or most airsoft guns. You have to do one other step. Take a knife or a flathead and pretty much anything you can get your hands on, and put it in between the polymer and the gearbox and pry outward. Try to keep it away from the selector switch, but kind of get it to lift up where the selector switch is. So you can, you're trying to disengage it from the actual gearbox itself like that, and then just turn it around. I found if you turn it at that angle for both the switches, it's easiest to pull the gearbox out. So you just want to get this flipped around. You do not need to remove the selector switches. I actually highly advise you don't remove the selector switches. Just turn them around. So yeah, get underneath the polymer here. Okay, so I've lifted it up, and there we go. It's free. Now, comes right out. See, if you get the angle about there on both of them, it'll pull right out. Okay, and then this just comes out, and there you go. There's the gearbox removed. I'm not going to do a gearbox removal or a gearbox disassembly just because they're everywhere. So just look around. It's the same exact thing as an M4 gearbox for the most part. I know there's some small differences, but hey, whatever. And removing it like that will give you scratches on the gearbox, but that's normal, honestly. I hope this helped, just to those who have AGM scars specifically, or who just needed a direct step-by-step guide without anything missing. Anyways, yeah, hope you enjoyed it.